She was already telling you. Not with words, not with anything obvious enough to screenshot or point to or replay in your head later with certainty. But she was telling you, in the only language women use when they want someone but can't say it directly. When attraction is present, but the risk of saying it out loud feels too large. She was telling you with her hands, with the way she moved toward you, with contact so brief and so specific that if you didn't know what to look for, it registered as nothing. Just a moment, just a casual thing people do. And you missed it. Not because you're not paying attention, because nobody ever taught you what you were supposed to be paying attention to. Think about the last woman you were genuinely interested in. The one where you weren't sure how she felt, where you spent time afterward replaying the conversation, trying to read something definitive into what she said or didn't say, trying to figure out whether the connection you felt was mutual or one-sided. Now think about whether she touched you at any point, even briefly, even casually, even in a way that seemed completely incidental. Because it probably wasn't incidental. And the fact that you're not sure, the fact that you can remember the conversation but maybe not to contact, is exactly the problem this is going to solve. Women are not mysterious creatures operating on frequencies men can't access. They communicate attraction clearly, consistently, and in ways that follow recognizable patterns. The issue is not that the signals are hidden. The issue is that men are almost never taught what the signals look like. So they miss them, repeatedly, with women who were interested, with moments that had real potential. They walk away thinking she wasn't feeling it, when she was standing there telling them she was, in the language she knew how to use, and getting nothing back. That ends today. There are specific touches, not general categories, specific, observable, psychologically grounded physical signals that women produce when attraction is present and words feel too risky. And by the time we're done here, you'll recognize every single one of them in real time, not after the fact, not in the replay, in the moment, when it matters. Because the moment is where everything is won or lost. Before we get to the touches themselves, you need to understand something fundamental about why women communicate attraction this way. Because if you understand the psychology, the signals become obvious. And if you don't, even knowing what to look for won't fully land. Why women use touch instead of words. Men, when they're attracted to someone, are generally socialized toward direct pursuit. Not always gracefully, not always successfully, but the cultural script for male attraction is at least nominally forward-facing. You're supposed to make a move, say something, close the distance in some way that makes your interest known. The cultural script for female attraction is almost entirely different. Women are socialized from everywhere, to not be too forward, not too available, not too obvious about desire, because obvious desire in a woman carries social costs that it doesn't carry for men. The fear of rejection is there, as it is for everyone, but layered on top of it is the fear of being seen too eager, too easy, too much. So she doesn't say it. She can't usually, not in the early stages, not with more certainty than attraction alone provides. But the feeling doesn't disappear because it can't be spoken. It finds another channel. Touch is that channel. Touch is deniable in a way that words are not. If she puts her hand briefly on your arm and you don't respond, if you don't register it, or you register it but don't reciprocate, she can absorb that without the full exposure of a verbal advance going unanswered. The touch can be framed to herself and to anyone watching as nothing, as casual contact, as just the way she is. But it was not nothing. It was a signal sent on a frequency most men don't know how to receive. And here's what happens when men consistently miss those signals. She reads the non-response as disinterest, not as obliviousness, as disinterest. She concludes that the attraction isn't mutual, withdraws the signals, and the window closes, sometimes permanently. And the man walks away genuinely confused about why the energy shifted, why she seemed less engaged, why what felt like momentum suddenly evaporated. The momentum didn't evaporate. He just didn't catch it when it was offered. Touch 1.
The arm touch during laughter. This is the most common signal and the most consistently missed because it happens in a moment of genuine joy. She laughs at something you said, and in the laughter, her hand comes to your arm. Briefly, a second, maybe less, and then it's gone. And the reason men miss it is because the laughter dominates. The touch is registered as a byproduct of the moment rather than information in itself. Here's the psychology. Touch during laughter is not incidental. The body in a moment of genuine amusement doesn't randomly seek physical contact with people it's neutral about. The reach toward you in that moment is the body expressing what the laugh is feeling: connection, warmth, the pleasure of being in your company through the most immediate physical channel available. The arm is chosen specifically because it's safe, not the hand, which carries too much deliberateness, not the shoulder, which requires more reach and more commitment. The arm, the forearm specifically, is close, accessible, and deniable. It's the touch that says, "I want to be closer to you right now," without saying anything at all. If it happens once, notice it. If it happens more than once in the same interaction, that is a pattern, and patterns are not accidents.
Touch 2. The unnecessary adjustment. She fixes something on you, straightens your collar, brushes something off your shoulder, adjusts something about your appearance that, if you're honest, did not require adjusting. This one is so domestically intimate that most men process it as friendly rather than romantic, as something a sister or a good friend might do. And sometimes it is. Context matters. But here's the distinction. A friendly adjustment happens when something actually needs fixing, and the relationship is established enough that it's natural to just take care of it. What you're looking for is the adjustment that finds a reason, that invents a necessity, that creates a pretext for physical contact with you that didn't strictly need to exist. The psychology underneath this is significant. Grooming behavior, and that's what this is at its root, is one of the most ancient expressions of intimate care between two people. It communicates, "I notice you. I want to take care of you. I am comfortable enough in your space to touch you without being invited." When she does this early, before the relationship has established that kind of casualness, she is not just fixing your collar. She is finding a legitimate reason to be in your physical space, to make contact, to close the distance between you under the cover of something practical. If it happens and you feel the impulse to say thank you and move on, don't. That's the moment. Stay in it for an extra beat. Make eye contact. Let the moment be what it is rather than normalizing it immediately. But here's where most men make their first critical mistake, and it's not the one you'd expect. Here's where it gets more interesting than you thought. Touch 3. The knee or leg contact that doesn't move away. You're sitting next to each other, close enough that there's incidental contact, knees touching, legs parallel, normal proximity in a crowded space or a booth at a restaurant or a couch where the seating brought you together. And she doesn't move away. This sounds like nothing. It almost always gets processed as nothing, as just the physical reality of the space you're in. But it is not nothing, and here's exactly why. The human body is extraordinarily sensitive to unwanted contact. Even mild incidental contact with someone we're neutral about or uncomfortable with produces an automatic, almost unconscious adjustment. A slight shift, a repositioning that creates a millimeter more space. We do it without thinking, without deciding to, because the nervous system handles it before the conscious mind even registers the discomfort. When that adjustment doesn't happen, when she is aware of the contact and stays, that stillness is a choice. Not a conscious, deliberate choice necessarily, but a choice her body is making about yours. That she is comfortable in contact with you. That the contact is not something to move away from. That she is, in the most physical and unperformable sense, okay with being this close to you. And if at any point she shifts toward rather than away, if the contact increases rather than decreases, that is no longer ambiguous. That is the body voting clearly. Say this with me. Stillness in contact is a signal, not a coincidence. Here's what most men do when they start learning about attraction signals. They become hyper-vigilant. They start cataloging every touch, analyzing every moment of contact, trying to build a case from the evidence. They turn what should be natural human interaction into a forensic exercise, and it destroys the very thing they're trying to read. Because here's the contradiction nobody in the attraction space talks about honestly. The more consciously you analyze her signals, the less naturally you respond to them. And natural response, genuine, present, unanalyzed response, is what signals your own attractiveness back. She's not just sending signals, she's watching for whether you receive them, whether you're present enough to feel the moment rather than just intellectually registering it, whether you respond with the ease of a man who is comfortable in his own skin rather than the calculation of a man running a checklist. The goal is not to become a better analyst. The goal is to become more present, more attuned, more able to feel what's happening in real time rather than processing it afterward when it's too late. Touch 4. She initiates recontact after you've separated. You've been talking, there was contact, natural, easy, the kind that happens when two people are engaged with each other. And then something breaks it. Someone else joins the conversation. You move to get drinks. There's a natural interruption that creates physical distance. And then she finds her way back. Not obviously, not by grabbing your arm and pulling you close, by positioning, by moving back into your orbit, by re-establishing proximity that the interruption removed. This is one of the clearest signals available because it requires initiative. Maintaining accidental contact is passive. Re-establishing contact after it's been broken is active. It requires her to make a small, deniable, but real choice to be close to you again. Watch for this specifically in group settings, where she could talk to anyone, where there are other conversations available and she's chosen to be back in yours, where the distance between you was closed not by circumstance, but by her deciding, without saying anything, that she wanted it closed. That decision, small, quiet, easily explained away, is her telling you something she can't say with words.
Stop. Because here's the thing I need you to sit with. All 4 of these touches, all the signals we've covered, they are not a green light to immediately escalate. They are not permission slips. They are information. And what you do with information determines everything that happens next. The men who consistently miss opportunities don't just miss the signals, they also misread what the signals mean. They think recognition of attraction is permission for immediate, clumsy escalation. And that misreading, that jump from she's interested to I should act on this right now without understanding what acting well looks like, is where more opportunities get lost than in the missing of the signals in the first place. Touch 5. The touch she gives you before she leaves. Goodbyes are revealing. In the ordinary social exit, the end of a casual interaction with someone you feel nothing particular about, the goodbye is functional. A word, a wave, a nod. Something that closes the interaction without investing anything additional in it. When she has feelings she hasn't expressed, the goodbye changes. There's a touch that happens at the exit that didn't have to happen. A hug that's slightly longer than the friendship would strictly require. A hand on your arm as she's turning to leave. A moment where she creates one more point of contact before the interaction ends, as if the body, as the words are saying goodbye, is trying to say something different. That touch, the one that happens when she's leaving, when there's no social pretext that requires it, when the interaction is already ending and she creates contact anyway, is one of the most honest signals she'll ever send you. Because it's the one where the deniability is thinnest, where the only explanation for the touch is that she wanted to touch you once more before she had to stop. If you feel it and it registers as something, trust that registration. That feeling of significance is your own nervous system receiving information your conscious mind is still catching up to. Repeat after me. I am present enough to feel what's happening, not just see it. Now here's what to actually do with all of this, because recognition without response is just awareness of missed opportunities, and you came here to stop missing them. What she's waiting for after she sends the signal. Here's the honest answer. She's not waiting for a line. She's not waiting for a smooth move or a technique you read somewhere. She's waiting for acknowledgement, for evidence that the signal was received, for you to show, in whatever way is natural to you, that you felt the moment too. That acknowledgement can be incredibly simple. It doesn't require words. Eye contact held a beat longer than necessary after the touch, a slight smile that isn't about what was just said but about what just happened, a small reciprocal movement toward her rather than away. What she's reading in those micro-responses is not whether you're smooth, it's whether you're present, whether you're actually in this moment with her or somewhere in your head running calculations.
The man who feels the touch and responds from that feeling, naturally, without overthinking, is giving her something far more attractive than the man who registered it intellectually and is now deciding what the strategic response should be. Be in the moment. That's the entire instruction. Everything else follows from that. The difference between touches that signal attraction and touches that don't. Not every touch is a signal, and one of the things that separates men who read these situations well from men who consistently misread them is the ability to make this distinction cleanly. Here's the framework. 3 questions. Ask them fast, before you overthink. Did she initiate it, or was it entirely incidental? Contact that happens because you're physically in the same space and it couldn't have been avoided is not the same as contact she created by moving toward you. Did she linger, or did she withdraw immediately? Touch that disappears the instant it happens reads differently than touch that stays a beat longer than it needed to. Does it fit the energy of the interaction? Touch that happens in a moment of genuine connection, of laughter, of shared feeling, of real engagement reads differently than touch in a neutral, transactional moment. If the answer to all 3 questions points toward intentional, lingering contact in a moment of genuine connection, that is a signal, and it should be received as one. The mistake that kills more opportunities than missing the signal does. You noticed the touch, you felt the moment, you registered what it meant, and then, because you wanted to be sure, because you didn't want to misread it, because the risk of being wrong felt larger than the cost of doing nothing, you let it pass. You normalized it. You moved the conversation forward as if it didn't happen, and the moment closed. This is the mistake. Not in the missing of the signal, that's understandable, you weren't taught what to look for, but in seeing it clearly and still doing nothing, in choosing the safety of ambiguity over the discomfort of responding to what you actually felt. Here's what that choice communicates to her: that you're not confident enough to acknowledge what just happened, that the risk of being wrong matters more to you than the possibility of being right, that you're more interested in protecting yourself from embarrassment than in being present with her. And confidence, this specific, unperformable confidence of a man who is comfortable acknowledging a moment rather than pretending it didn't happen, is one of the most attractive things you can demonstrate. Not arrogance, not presumption. The calm, grounded willingness to be in the reality of what's happening rather than in the safer fiction that nothing is. That willingness is itself the signal she's been looking for from you. What presence actually looks like in practice. You're in a conversation. She laughs and her hand comes to your forearm. You feel it register. Here's what presence looks like in that moment. You don't freeze. You don't make it a big thing. You don't immediately say something about it. You stay in the laughter, in the moment, and you let your eye contact warm slightly. You slow down just enough that the moment breathes rather than rushing past it. Maybe your body turns fractionally more toward her. Maybe you hold the eye contact a half-second longer than the laughter strictly required. What you've done is acknowledge the moment without making it awkward. You've communicated, in the same deniable, physical, feeling-based language she used, that you felt it too, that you're present, that you're interested, that the signal was received and welcomed. That exchange, that quiet, mutual, unspoken acknowledgement between 2 people who are both feeling something and both know the other feels it too, is where attraction becomes something real, something with momentum, something that has somewhere to go. Everything that matters in attraction happens in those small, quiet, easily missed moments. Not in the grand moves, not in the perfect lines. In the accumulated weight of 2 people who keep noticing each other and keep finding small, deniable, unmistakable ways to say so. The final thing to understand about all of this. Learning to recognize these signals is not about becoming a better strategist. It's about becoming more present, more attuned to the human being in front of you, more willing to be in the actual moment of connection rather than observing it from a safe, analytical distance. The men who are naturally good at this, who seem to effortlessly recognize when a woman is interested and respond in ways that move things forward, are not running better algorithms. They're just more present, more comfortable with the uncertainty of human connection, more willing to feel what's happening and respond from that feeling rather than from a calculated position. That presence is learnable.
It develops through practice, not through rehearsed responses, but through the repeated choice to actually be in the moments that matter rather than watching them from the outside. And the women in your life, the ones who are already trying to tell you something, they've been waiting for exactly that. Not for you to get the technique right, for you to actually show up. You came into this having missed signals you now understand were there, having walked away from moments that had real potential, convinced the attraction wasn't mutual when it was being communicated in the only language available to her. Now you know what to look for. The arm touch and laughter, the unnecessary adjustment, the contact that doesn't move away, the reinitiation after separation, the goodbye that creates one more reason to touch you. 5 specific, observable, psychologically grounded signals, each one a window into something she was feeling but couldn't say directly. You're not going to miss them anymore, not because you're running a better checklist, because you understand now what they mean, why they happen, and what they're asking for in return. Presence, recognition, the simple, confident acknowledgement that you felt it too. If this shifted something, if you thought back to a moment you now understand differently, or felt the recognition of a signal you missed, share this. Because every man you know has walked away from a moment that could have been something, convinced he read it wrong when he just didn't know how to read it at all. Give them the language. She was already talking. Now you can finally hear her.